So it was the first rain of the season last night. If you weren't up, you probably saw today. It feels like a lovely blessing. One of the descriptions of loving kindness, the traditional descriptions of loving kindness, is like, it's said that it's like a rain that just gently rains and nourishes everywhere without discrimination. So I thought about RAIN, and then I thought about another acronym because Pascal gave us KC, and so there's another one called RAIN, RAIN, and it's recognition, acceptance, inquiry, and non-attachment. And so I wanted to talk a little about that. First, recognition and how beautiful that quality is, that it really sees the characteristics, the functions, the expression of whatever is in our mind. And it reminds me of one of the traditional similes of mindfulness that I read when I was at the Buddhist study center in Massachusetts. I can't remember who said it, but they said mindfulness is like a gatekeeper, and whoever comes in through the castle, the author used the image of castle, that gatekeeper sees who it is. I prefer being a host for a party, and so traditionally in England, anyway, I don't think it happens so much here, but traditionally in England, the host is at the door. And whoever comes through the door, you see. And you're like, hi. And when a friend comes in through the door to the party, it's not like you just see the general them. You're like, oh, like, what are you wearing? And, what mood are you in? And so you're really seeing who is at the door and what they bring. And there's this beautiful poem that, I'll go to that in a minute. So recognition is like mindfulness in that it doesn't, I talked about a boomerang. It doesn't just look at the experiential object and boomerang off. It's actually the equivalent, and this is another traditional description, of a pebble dropping down in a lake and dropping to the bottom. That our awareness or recognition drops into the experience so that we see and know the whole experience. So it's this beautiful quality because it's in that seeing and dropping and knowing that we come into what the word intimacy describes. I feel intimate, that opening and dropping in to what it is. And then there's the sense of I'm in an intimate connection with life. So recognizing, and of course that's just another way of talking about one of the aspects of awareness and presence, to recognize, to be here. And then just to say that again in another way, picking up a theme that I've mentioned before, that we have all experienced, and I was in a mosaic class, and I was an introductory mosaic class at the Sharon Arts Center. It's this wonderful place where you go to classes and it's quite cheap. And there were all these mosaics and that the teacher brought, and there were sort of lots of pretty little flowers and beads, and so people were making pretty sorts of vases and things, and I made this wild, scrawny frog, not even in water, but in a kind of abstract background. And the teacher would go around to all the students and, very nice, very nice. And I know she wasn't aware of it, totally pass over my mosaic, no recognition at all, no presence at all. So, I actually loved my frog, so it didn't make a difference in terms of doing the work, but I felt the emptiness of it. I felt that it was the opposite of that intimacy, that connection. And I know we all feel that emptiness when we're not in a relationship of recognition, of presence, of knowing deeply and intimately. So just another acknowledgement of why we're here and that calling to be present. So recognition. And then acceptance is this really incredible gift that we're cultivating for ourselves, which is that openness to let whoever is at the door in. Oh, my good friend Jasmine, yes, come on in. I haven't seen you in ages, I love you. Oh, restlessness. Oh yeah, also a good friend. I've known you very well. Welcome in. Can I sense your energy? Can I recognize it and become intimate with it? That kind of high, intense, unfocused, scattered energy, right? Restlessness, where you feel like you're jumping out of your skin. So, this is what you look like. This is the dress you're wearing. This is how it feels when you come into my house. This is how Rumi talks about it. This being human is a guest house. Every morning a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. They may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. So this beautiful quality of acceptance, and as part of this field then, that recognition, that acceptance, comes I for inquiry. So now how is it? Can I actually know more deeply after that first recognition what this experience is? Can I see more deeply its qualities? And one of the things that we begin to see about that is that it is actually part of nature. It is something just like every human being has a skin, and so in a way we can't take skin to be ours, like, is this really mine? It's skin, Or if we go outside and into these hills, there are trees and there's the grass that's kind of the skin of the earth. We don't take it as ours. So we come to see that last part of rain, non-attachment, that actually everything has its own life, and there actually isn't, in reality, any owner in that true reality. So then that true reality is calling us to explore some of the places where we fall into ownership, and I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. But for now, to invite that environment of, am I owning this? Am I identifying with it? Am I believing its storyline? There are 5 particular qualities that the Buddha talks about as a veil to this deep freedom or illuminated heart of non-ownership. And he calls them the hindrances. I like Rumi's naming of the guests as the hindrances as guests, because they really are guests. They aren't intrinsic to our being. And the Buddha is very specific. He says there's a path, and then he says there are these 5 veils that cover the path, and in that covering we often get lost. And that the 5 veils are desire, aversion, restlessness and anxiety, sloth and torpor and doubt. And so we can actually apply rain to them. It's just to sort of initially describe the dress code of each of these guests. So when desire is in consciousness, the perception, how we see when we're in desire, is skewed. So just to say that these particular 5 guests always skew our perception, so that our perception isn't true. Desire skews it in a way that makes us see only what's positive and desirable about something. So there's a traditional description, thinking about parties again, I love parties, is if you have three different personality types going to a party, one of them being desire will go into the party and say, oh, wow, great, there's pumpkin pie and there's gravy and turkey and it's just all my favorite food and there's all these cool people and everything is positive. And so the mind moves towards all that's pleasant. Have you seen that happen? And we're like wanting to grab onto it because it's so pleasant, And I have some friends who are the desiring type, and they are always busy. So a friend will call me up and she'll say, oh, okay, so, we have a date. And you know what? I know we said we'll go and see a movie, but there's this great music on the club afterwards, and maybe we could get a bite to eat first. And that's desire. It's like just moving towards what is pleasant. And it's sticky, so the traditional texts talk about it. It's a very funny description as what happens when you fry meat on a very high flame and how it gets stuck to the pan. That's the simile they use. So it gets stuck. So that's what happens in our minds. We get stuck. So just to recognize that impersonal force, and this is how this guest expresses itself. And then the other side is aversion, just the opposite. It only sees what's unpleasant. So I happen to be an aversive type. If I go to a movie with you and you say to me, well, how was it? I can give you 10 things that were wrong with it immediately. So that's just how my mind works. It always goes to what's wrong with something. So it pushes away things. So not liking, pushing away, and it's a very contracted experience, pushing away and shutting down. So the aversive guest comes into your party and like, I can't believe you're serving this food and it isn't even Thanksgiving. And how come you invited Mary and Sam to the party? Don't you know I hate them? And so that's what aversive does. So that's the other side, either moving towards the pleasant or not wanting what the experience is. And they both really separate us. They veil that intimacy, that deep connection we're yearning for. And then restlessness is this experience of just this unfocused movement of energy into all kinds of different directions at the same time. And then sloth and torpor is the opposite, the heaviness and the sleepiness of the mind. And then the last one is doubt, which is the quality that questions and doesn't give us the chance to actually experience what it is we're experiencing so that we can discern for ourselves if something is true or not. It takes us out and stops being able to deepen in and experience something. So there's a traditional antidote which is rain, to recognize, accept, inquire, and invite non-attachment. Specifically for desire, the invitation is to balance that perception by seeing what the unbeautiful qualities are. So when you look at a chocolate cake, very desirable, you can also think, wow, the last time I ate chocolate cake, I kind of felt sick afterwards. So you look at the undesirable qualities of it. Aversion, the antidote is loving kindness. It's seeing what's positive in something and offering, opening the heart to it in well-wishing. And restlessness, it's focusing, bringing the mind into a focus with one object. So bringing it into the breath, the body are very safe ways to work with restlessness and anxiety. And doubt, it's said to offer yourself the capacity to experience, in this case, the path. And if that isn't true, to speak with a wise elder. Specifically, one of the most important aids that's helped me in working with the hindrances has been to realize that it isn't about the object, it's about my mind. So when I'm desiring something, it's not really that this person is so gorgeous. It's actually my mind. It's kind of amazing, isn't it? But that's the reality. And if we're like really hating someone and we think, well, of course I hate this person, or if I'm irritated or angry because it actually has to do with our minds. And it's the same with all the hindrances. And just to detach that, to bring that projection back in, enables us to relate to the experience. As long as we're projecting it outside, we're actually lost our agency. We've disempowered ourselves. And so it's that movement to bring it back and to say, oh wow, this is my mind. Can I relate to this guest house? Can I recognize it, inquire into it, allow it, accept it, and see it as part of life without owning it? So let's come into checking checking this out.
What's the classic antidote for sloth?
Oh, thank you. I forgot to talk about the classic antidote to sloth and torpor, mostly because I hardly ever experience it. I'm the restless anxiety, nervous type. So thank you for that. So the classic antidote to sloth and torpor is to bring energy into the mind, and there are a couple of ways to do that. Open your eyes, open the eyes. The second one is to invite the mind to work harder. So for example, to go to different points if you're working with the breath, like breathing in as the breath ends of that in-breath, go to a touch point in the body, like the buttocks and knees. Catching the out-breath, go to another touch point, like the feet, or the heads, or the ears, or the hands. So you're making your body work harder, and you can actually label it as another way to bring energy into the mind. So breathing in, knees, feet, breathing out, head, hands, buttocks. You can take 1, 2, or 3 different touch points depending on which parts of your body are most accessible. So standing, keeping your eyes open, increasing the amount of things that you want to be mindful of. And another antidote is when you have your eyes open to look towards the light. And the Buddha says that when you're feeling sloth and torpor, that kind of heaviness and sleepiness, actually, unless mindfulness is very strong, don't take it as your focus, because you'll just get sleepier. Like when you notice it, open the eyes or make the mind work harder. Stand up, look towards the light. Stand on one leg. Keep us awake. Thank you. See what your intention is, how you would like to meet yourself in this moment. Our intentions set our path. And as you do, see if you would like to open the space for this energy, giving space for presence or kindness. Feeling their energies, how they live in the body. And then in this field, see how your breath is living. Allowing each in-breath also to be a guest, entering in. Each breath a different guest. We recognize their unique qualities or dress or clothes. Welcoming them in. We're right here to welcome them. A long guest or a short one. A tight or an open one. Just like nature. Recognizing other guests that might arise or enter into this guest house. Sharp shooting, what we describe as or name as pain, hot or cold. the guest of wanting or not wanting. Recognizing each arising at the door. recognizing, allowing, inquiring, non-attachment. giving the gift of presence and recognition. As we come to the end of this period, see if you would like to appreciate your efforts, the remembering, the presence and recognition, the effort that you made, your patience, perseverance, or any of the other qualities that you called into being. Seeing the goodness of your practice and recognizing it, appreciating that presence. Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To learn how you can support the teachers and Dharma Seed, please visit dharmaseed.org/donate.